All right, next up after our catch stitch, we are going to sew on a button. We're going to sew on the button with, let's do 4 holes first. 4 holes, 2 holes, exactly the same, no difference really, and each one is just as common as the other. So what we're going to do is, let's say this is the good side of the fabric, the side that we're sewing the button onto. We're actually going to take our thread and start on this side, the good side. And we're going to do that because we're going to hide our knot under the button. So we're going to start on the good side, pull our thread through to the back, and then come up as close as we can to our knot, securing it nice and clean on the inside of the garment. And now we're ready to put the button on. So we're going to go either across, like usually we cross. So we'll do that first on this one. And usually I sew the button on the same way that it was originally attached. So if there are other buttons on the garment, for instance, I would sew the thread on either across the holes, crossing the thread, or parallel thread, depending on how the button was sewn onto the garment. And I'll show you what I mean. So we're crossing the thread, and then we're going to go back down. The key with sewing on a clean, nice button is to try to keep sending the needle through in relatively the same spot because it looks nice on both sides of the garment. Okay, we're going to come back up through. With doubled thread, I usually like to do 3 passes. So I'm going to go back through again, and on the back side of the garment, I'm trying to come up through the same place relatively each time. All right, and then one more pass, and I'm just constantly looking at the front and back of the button to make sure that there are no threads getting caught so that it looks messy. We really want this to look clean because buttons are so often very visible. We want it to look really nice. Now, we're going to come back up and go through our opposite 2 holes that we haven't caught yet. Again, trying to keep the threads tight in a nice tight little stitching area on the back of the garment. Oh, see, that's what I mean. We don't want any of those loose threads sticking up. So each pass through the button, we want to make sure all the threads are tight so that it looks nice and clean in the end. That's what's really important. Clean and secure are the most 2 important things. Okay, and I'm just going to come back up through that hole, back down the other side, and then one more time. Easy peasy. Now, when I come back through that last time, I'm going to put my needle through the hole on the other side, but not down through the fabric. I'm going to knot off on the right side of the fabric again because it keeps everything clean. What I like to do is slide the button through the threads that we've stitched, and then just like we've knotted off any other time, we're going to stick it through that hole, pull that one tight, and then this is tricky, you can do 2 at once, pull it through the hole again. And then just to be safe, I like to do it once more. Again, sticking the needle through the threads and then through our loop, making sure that all of the threads are clean and smooth. There we go. All right, perfect. And then we're just going to hide our tails inside of the fabric, kind of scooting in between the layers, just like that. And snip on this side. So you can't see any knots on either side, and everything looks nice and clean. Isn't that beautiful? Okay. We're going to knot off again. Perfect. And then the 2-hole button is going to be exactly the same, except less passes with less holes. So that's pretty self-explanatory. We'll skip on to the button with the shank. So this type of button is a shank button, meaning that it doesn't have any holes on the face. So we're going to start it off exactly the same way from the front, the right side of the garment, so that we can hide that knot there, and then come back up through. And then we're going to slide on our button. These are a little bit trickier. I'm going to leave it loose like that for my first pass, because they're a little bit trickier to maneuver because you're not coming straight up through the holes. But that's okay. You're just going to kind of hold it off to the side there and just make sure we catch it nice and tight there. There we go. Nice and tight. And come back up through. Always trying to keep the thread relatively in the same space. And back down through. And with something like this, depends on how big the button is. Sometimes if it's very little, you can only do a few passes, but with this one I'm going to definitely do at least 3 passes to keep it nice and tight. Alrighty. Trying to keep all those threads in the same place on the bottom. And then we're going to come up like that, and we're going to put our needle through the thread and tie our knot just like usual. Definitely at least 2 knots to keep it nice and tight. There we go. Alrighty. And then hide the tails just like usual. Okay, perfect. Now, we're going to take our 2-hole button and we're going to create a faux shank, a thread shank. This is something that I really like to use, a technique that I like to use on heavily used buttons. So shirt front buttons, for instance, buttons that are not decorative, that are going to definitely be used a lot because they go through a lot of tugging. So again, starting on the front as always, we're going to come up through and back down, back to the back, just the same as usual. And I'm going to do, again, 3 passes is good. 3 passes is 6 threads, of course, so that should be nice and strong. Okay, and now when we come up that 4th time, we're going to come up through the fabric, but not through the buttonhole. You see? Okay, and then we're going to hold the fabric kind of away in the button up, and we're going to tightly wrap 1, 2, 3 times, holding that tight, holding that thread tight like that, wrapping the thread around the threads underneath the button, creating a thread shank. Then we're going to slide the needle through that thread right there and tie off our knot, holding that thread really nice and tight. Oopsies. Holding our thread nice and tight to make sure that that thread shank stays tight and secure. And of course, at least 2 knots as always. Perfect. And then hide the tail as always and clip nice and tight. And now